Hi, welcome to D10tion, where we pretend to know what we're talking about when it comes to D&D. I am your host, Roots Bloody Roots Tristan. To my right, we have, let's make like a tree and branch out of here, Brandon. And to my left, we have, I'm just going to leave, Sam. So,
perfect.
All of our wonderful tree puns are based around one simple fact, and that is we're talking about Druids. And Druids are magically nature.
They're magic hippies.
They are the
if
hippies.
you want to boil it down to something, there's different ways of doing this, different ways of like putting that. But they're what you call a tree hugger. They're literally in tune with nature. And different classes have different subclasses that like go towards this.
Right.
But Druid is the epitome of I am one with nature.
Right.
I am the nature
this is
speaks
the
through
sole
me.
focus to the very core versus like you mentioned, other classes have more druidy feelings. We've mentioned them with a couple of other ones, but this is why we say that they're similar to Druid. Druid is that foundation of like just straight up nature.
They're dang tree hugging hippies.
You pretty much get the ability to summon the wrath and the potent energy of nature.
Yes.
That pretty much you can call storms, make vines appear, have wildfire. You can have gusts like pushes of wind. You can be in one of the most important things about Druid. We'll get into it is become part of nature through various means.
Yeah.
So you. If you want to play something that, if you love nature and you want to, be like Captain Planet and one of the Planeteers, Druids are the way to go.
Yes. So as always, we're going to make a level 5 character to kind of help us on our journey of exploring the aspects of Druids. And Sam, you're going to kind of give us a quick rundown of our wonderful Druid.
So I would like to start this off by saying I did not pick this name. I was horribly outnumbered on this.
By horribly outnumbered, you mean one person just wouldn't let it go.
Yeah. So we have made Gelf. Gelf the elf.
He's Gelf the elf.
I hate him so much already.
I love him.
I love nature. Gosh.
As if I needed any more reason to never want to play a druid. I'm just always going to associate it with Gelf the elf.
So good.
So Gelf is a wood elf.
Go figure.
Gelf the wood elf.
Because, nature. Elves get a +2 to Dex, which is always nice. They also get Keen Senses, Fey, Ancestry, and Trance. As a druid, you get a 1d8 per druid level for your hit dice, which is pretty good. You also get 8 plus your Constitution modifier at your first level, and then 1d8 plus your Constitution modifier every level afterwards for your hit points. So, not too shabby. Not as good as, let's say, like a barbarian or a paladin, but not as crappy as a rogue.
Right.
Or a wizard.
Or a wizard. You are proficient with light armor, medium armor, shields, but druids don't typically wear armor or shields made of metal, so...
Wood and leather,
yeah.
And natural materials like bone.
Yeah, so you could wear like some hide leather, that would be
I just want a druid that's covered in bones.
That's the thing.
Yeah. You are also proficient with clubs, daggers, darts, javelins, maces, quarterstaffs, scimitars, sickles, slings, and spears.
Most of which are not made of metal.
Except for scimitars.
I said most.
I know. I say the most, except for I would love to see a wooden scimitar. See how that works. I bonk.
Could make it happen.
I bonk you.
You do get the tool proficiency for a herbalism kit. I mean, you're out in nature all the time doing nature things. You know a thing or two about herbs.
You know about those dank herbs, like this ginger root.
Yes, ginger root.
Right. Not those interesting mushrooms that we'll all found in this one.
Everyone makes that joke. Your druid doesn't have to have a mushroom problem.
You're right. It's a sweetgrass problem.
Sweetgrass.
Your saving throws are intelligence and wisdom. And for your skills, you can pick 2 from Arcana, Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Religion, Survival.
I think animal handling and survival.
Animal Handling.
Gelf the elf doesn't get along with people. He gets along great with animals. Gelf the elf is not a people person.
At first level, you also know the secret language of the Druids, Druidic. So you
so rare.
You kind of just know this language, and you can write messages if other.
It's kind of like Thieves' Camp, but for Druids.
Yeah, or it's like the hobo messages.
You put
for nature people.
You put a bird on a wall, and someone goes, "Oh, that's a Druidic for sweetgrass," and everyone's like,
"You'll be high."
Mushrooms Awesome. But you also get your spell casting at first level, which you do get your nature magic. Through the power of nature, you get magic.
Magic.
I don't think I will ever understand why that's a thing, but it's a thing.
But you can think of it as everything in D&D has an energy and essence to it. You know how like there's
right, life forces.
There's like the deity of like nature.
Right.
They're literally like their essence in creating nature was so strong they imbued nature with their like godly powers.
So technically, it's still divine magic. It's just divine magic channeled through nature.
Yes. It's pretty much the life divine magic of creation through nature in their like natural essence. You just get it. Which your spellcasting modifier is wisdom.
Yes.
So you want to be wise. You don't want to be. You can be smart, but you want to be wise. You want to know that a tomato doesn't go in a nice fruit salad. That's the easiest way to put that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to druids in what they can do with some of their abilities, but druids are pretty straightforward in understanding their concepts.
Right.
We're utilizing those concepts can get a little bit much, but the concepts are pretty low, like base.
Right.
Except for one. One's a lot more complicated than the other. We'll talk about that.
So before we go into the circles, just real quick, on at level 2, you get to do something that most people really covet, and you become an animal.
You get wild shape.
Yes, or you can be an animorph, whatever you want to call it.
So wild shape, there's rules to wild shaping. Pretty much the long and short of it is the higher level you are as druid, the better your wild shapes are.
Mm-hmm.
There's one circle that makes your wild shapes even better, but the basic way of looking at it as if you're at second level, when you get it, you can't do a challenge rating of a beast higher than 1/4, and it can't swim or fly.
Yeah. So just because you're a druid does not mean that you can wild shape into a kraken.
Right.
Or a dragon.
It's a never. You can never do that. You can do. There's some great animals you can go to.
Right.
Pretty much the way it works at level 8, you get the ability to transform into animals that fly and swim. Before then, you can't turn into animals that have a flying or swim stat. So it makes it so you can't be like, oh, I'm level 4. I could technically turn into this that has flying. I'm gonna fly. It goes, no, your wild shape can't do that. So that's why they did that, so you can't have a druid just wild shape and fly over whatever you want to do.
Right. Now, something that we've experienced as far as with wild shapes, a big thing to remember, the benefit of having a wild shape is you essentially get another health bar.
Yeah.
And this is super great. This is where you can, as a druid, you can act like a tank. Now, in our campaign, we've experienced this where I play a barbarian on the front line being a tank, and our druid will come up in a wild shape doing damage, and he'll get his health taken away, but then he's right back at his full health because of the wild shape. He goes back to being normal druid, and he's ready to go, and just wild shapes again, and has a whole other health bar. So that's something to keep in mind. If you like the idea of turning into an animal, this is where that benefit really comes in as far as play style.
If you take enough damage to lower your wild shape, because when you wild shape, you don't get your stats. You get the animal stats. You get the beast stats. So you can't have... If you have like a 20 in wisdom, and you go to wild shape, you technically still keep the wisdom because you're smart and able to do that, but all the other stats, gone. You get the beast ones. You can't, for some reason, be
You're not the strongest, dire wolf on the planet.
So, what's important is you retain alignment, personality, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. You maintain the things that you can act upon. You don't maintain your health,
you keep
dexterity,
the same
and strength.
brain.
You tend to you keep your same brain. You don't keep your same strength.
No.
So if you've maxed out your druid for strength, it still doesn't benefit you.
And when let's say your health, your wild shape has 20 health and you take 25 points of damage, you revert back and you take 5 points to your main body. It doesn't just disappear. There is rollover. So you got to keep that in mind. Even if someone does and kills your wild shape, that soaks a lot of damage, but you still take what's left over.
Right.
Now you can also lose your wild shape by going unconscious. So if someone puts you to sleep, gone. You revert back. You also can't cast spells. And your ability to speak or take action that requires your hands is gone.
Which is, I think, a pretty important thing to keep in mind.
Yes, you're not going to run around as a dire wolf casting spells.
You can, though, maintain concentration. So let's say you have Call Lightning and you transform. Call Lightning still is active because you're able to keep your mind intact.
Oh, that's a good point.
So, and you retain any benefit from your race or class or anything like that. So, you can't use any special vision, though. That goes away with your B sense. But let's say you, like with our campaign, you're an ASMR, and you transform into a bear. They have the ability where they can form incorporeal wings.
Right.
That still activates because it's part of your race.
Right. So then you have a flying bear.
Yes. So
which is a sight to see.
It is, yes. And when you can choose whether your equipment falls off or gets absorbed into your body.
Right.
Most people absorb it into your body because who knows what's going to happen during the battle.
Right.
Your equipment doesn't change size or shape. No. It's
you're not a tiny armored covered.
Yeah. Now you can theoretically through this, if your DM lets you, and makes a magical item that allows your armor to transform and give your AC to animals. That's something that can happen.
But
that's
most of the time, oddly specific with your DM.
So you cannot rely on that to be a thing. Your AC can technically go down from B shape.
Yes.
From wild shape. So that's wild shape. Wild shape is what makes a druid as unique as they are.
Right. This is where if you're another class, we've seen it already where a new player's come in and they're like, I'm going to be a rogue. And then the first session they see our druid turn into a direwolf. And it's like, wait. I want to do that.
Yeah. So you can use a lot with wild shape. Let's say you have a spot this big to get through. You can wild shape into a mouse or a cat and just go and get through, which you only have so many wild shapes per day, depending on your level, depending on your circle. Mm-hmm. But it's still a useful tool that you don't have to use in combat. We talked about combat a lot, but it's a useful tool outside of combat because let's say there's a bunch of dogs. There's just a bunch of random dogs in the city. The city has a dog problem, but you also want to get information and go find a hideout where a group of thieves are.
Right.
Wild shape into a dog. I'm going to just stay in. The wild shape has a length. That's important. It's based on your level. We'll get into that when we reach level 5, but it lets you blend in with what's around because you can look like anything, and as long as you're acting like a dog, no one would reasonably be like, well, that dog's different.
Right. This is where you can also get the benefits of whatever animal you get, such as, certain smell senses and sights and stuff like that. But yeah, so there's a lot that goes on with wild shape, and again, we'll touch a little bit on that. But here comes the big thing when it comes to having a druid. This is where you get your clique. Also known as your druid circles. This is where, again, you get to really kind of, as always with all these classes, you get to really focus the idea of what you are as a druid.
And this one's back at level 2.
Which is
which is good.
Yeah. So this is one of those ones where you get it a level earlier than other ones, where some are waiting until 3. So yeah, druid circles of druids. There's just a bunch of them holding hands singing Kumbaya.
It pretty much is your society or your, as he said, clique.
Yes.
Of being a druid. It's the people who resonate with you the most on how they view nature and how they view the natural essence of life.
Yes.
So there are they're so eclectic in where they are. Some are in their own tribes, some are in their own monasteries, some are so far out and on their own that they never see anybody in their entire life.
And they think they're the only ones or something.
Exactly. Druids also recognize each other not as, oh, you're another druid. You recognize them as family. Because through life and through nature, everyone is family. If they're part of your druid. So you recognize, let's say, oh, we're all Circle of Dreams. We'd all be like, oh, we're all family. We're all brothers and sisters in the goal of the Circle of Dreams.
Right. And you will, as we start to go through, you'll see that the circles aren't just limited to we're the Circle of Trees. We're the Circle of Bushes.
You can have a sect within a circle. Let's say you're go in more depth. Let's say you're a Circle of Land and you're the desert. You can have a minor circle where the cactus versus we are the sand snake, things like that, where they can divide themselves based on what they individually believe, and that can be really fun role play, really fun DM. But it's all in the larger idea.
Yeah, they all deal with nature, so these can be quite vast. I mean, because right off the bat, we're going to start with Circle of Dreams,
which is weird,
right? Which is right how you're like dreams, nature, what?
But dreams and being part of that's one of the ones you like.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the only one I like.
Circle of Dreams isn't based on the material plane nature. It's based on the Feywild.
Right.
Yep.
So, which is where everything's like a dream-like fantasy realm. Think of, if you want to make it like real to us, think of Midsummer Night's Dream and Oberon and all the fantastical fairies and things like that.
Yeah.
You are part of that, what Oberon's summer court.
Mm-hmm.
Like that type of thing. That's where you get your inspiration and druidic power and ideals from. And so Druid get 2 at level 2 when they start, 6, 10, and 14.
Right.
So that first thing you get right when you start with Circle of Dreams is you get the Balm of the Summer Court. You pretty much get blessed by the Summer Court of the Feywild. You have Fey energy coursing through you at this point, and it's represented by D6s equal to your Druid level. As a bonus action, you can choose something you see a creature within 120 feet, and you can spin those die equal to half your Druid level or less. And you roll them and add them together. The target regains hit points equal to whatever you roll plus 1 for each die. So let's say you have 6 die, and you roll and you get all 3s. They would get a total of 12 hit points because 1 for each die and then the 3.
Right. At level 6, you get the Hearth of Moonlight and Shadow. This is where home is wherever you are. You can, during a short or long rest, you can invoke the shadowy power of the Glooming Court to help guard you and your group if need be. You're essentially creating a big old shadowy dome.
You're making it so no one can really see. You're like, you touch a point in space and an invisible 30-foot radius sphere of magic appears centered on that point and total cover. You pretty much become invisible.
Yeah. This is while you're in the sphere, your allies gain +5 to their dexterity and their wisdom to help with like stealth and perception checks. And any light from the open flame in the sphere, such as campfire torches or the like, aren't visible from the outside.
Which means you have a pretty good chance with this circle and this ability to, if you're out traveling or out in the wilderness where gigantic or huge things can come and find you,
right.
You're safer.
Right, this is where like you'll see like things like rogues will have like alarm or something. This would be like the druid's version of like, I can help a lot too.
Now the issue is, let's say your druid for some reason gets pulled out of the sphere, it drops. Yeah. It also at the end of a rest. So
yes.
You do this when you rest.
Yes.
If you're not planning to rest, don't do this.
Yeah.
Because then you don't get it until you finish a rest again, so that means you lose it. Then level 10, you get Hidden Paths. So pretty much you can use the magical hidden pathways that the Fae use to blink and teleport around. As a bonus action, you can teleport 60 feet to an unoccupied space, or you can use your action to teleport one willing creature 30 feet. You can go 60, they can go 30. And you can use this equal to the wisdom modifier. So the higher your wisdom modifier, the more you can just bamf around.
Right.
And send people around. So, we need you on the other side, don't worry. And then you're just like, wah! Yeet! And then level 14,
you get Walker in the Dreams. And this is kind of what it sounds. Yeah. We are Walker in Dreams. So this is where your Magic of the Feywild grants you the ability to travel mentally or physically through dreamlands. When you finish a short rest, you can cast one of these spells, which include Dream, Scrying, or Teleportation Circle without spending a spell slot or requiring the materials. This use of Teleportation Circle is special. Rather than opening a portal to a permanent Teleportation Circle, it opens a portal to the last location when you finished a long rest on your current plane of existence. If you haven't taken a long rest on your current plane, the spell fails, but it wasn't wasted. This is once you use this feature, you can also use it again after a long rest.
So Dream allows you to, let's talk about these spells real quick. Dream allows you to literally take your dream self and put yourself into someone else who's sleeping dream, and you can communicate with them and message them.
Like the one episode in every like fantasy or sci-fi.
Scrying lets you look on at somebody that you know. Has to be somebody that you come in contact and like know even briefly, but it allows you to look on. They can make a save to not be scryed on. But you can go check in on them, and then Teleportation Circle lets you literally just go, we're here now! So
definitely Dreams is much more Fae-based. It's much more of a mystical, ethereal kind of...
It's much more like that classic, like, Shakespearean Oberon Feywild, like, I'm here for mischief and dreams and magic!
Right.
And you also get your other druid things.
Yes.
It's not only that, but...
So the next circle we're going to talk about
It's my favorite.
Is Brandon's favorite.
Because it's just so neat. Okay? It's called the Circle of Spores.
It's pretty neat.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
It's a newer one. You find the beauty in decay and the beauty in, like, the decomposition of nature and the breaking down of natural products. It's a whole bunch of mushrooms. It's just fungi everywhere. And I personally like to make it so the Circle of Spores, whenever they wild shape, have mushrooms on them because that looks cool. And it's like a nice little way to keep a through line for it. But these druids are the closest to like a necromancer. They're the closest that know the circle of life and death. They're the closest that they know there's a grand cycle that they can't really stop and they're a part of, and they embrace it. Death isn't the end. It's just a change of scenery. They have a very complex relationship with death and undeath. They don't see anything wrong with it,
right?
But they also know that it can be bad if it's mismanaged,
right?
So
that's
you have
the whole point of Druids is a lot of its balance.
Like there's things that like if somebody's using undeath to thwart the cycle, that's a no-no. If they're using undeath to replace all life, that's a no-no. Things like that. Yeah. But undeath is normal for them. So and like other things, 2nd, 6th, 10th, 14th. So with this you get circle spells. The other one didn't have spells. You got. This one you do. This one you get spells based on your circle, and they go up depending on your level.
Right. Starting at 2nd level, you get Chill Touch,
and then 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th. So for our character, we would only get 4 spells or 5 spells with the 2nd level. But we're not worrying about that. We're not going to go into those spells. If you want to look at them, they're online.
Fair point.
2nd level is where you get one of the cool things. It's Halo of Spores. So you're surrounded by invisible necrotic spores that are harmless to you unless you decide to pop those suckers off. And when you do, when a creature you can see moves into a space with 10 feet of you or starts its turn there, you don't have to, you can use a reaction to deal 1d4 necrotic damage to that creature unless it succeeds a con save against your spell DC, which is your 8 plus wisdom modifier plus proficiency. And it increases to a d6, a d8, and a d10 at higher levels.
Right.
So you pretty much make yourself like a little like, come near me, I dare you. And then, and then also at 2nd level, you get a lot at 2nd level.
Yeah, there's a lot happening at 2nd level.
You also get Symbiotic Entity. So, you gain the ability to channel the magic you have through your spores. If it wasn't common enough that you had spores to do stuff. As an action, you can expend your wild shape. So you don't have to wild shape. You can use this to awaken the spores, and you gain 4 temporary hit points for each level you have in the class. So when you gain level 20, you gain 80 hit points. If you use this feature. So you're just like, I'm back up 80.
Yes.
Like, I'm good to go. While this feature is active, it also, you roll 2 die for your Circle of Spores, and your melee weapon deals extra 1d6 poison to anything they hit. So, which is good. So, Circle of Spores is about wild shape, but also if you don't want to wild shape, you can cast spells and hit things.
Right.
And deal more damage. And it lasts for 10 minutes. And then if you wild shape or after 10 minutes, you lose those hit points. So, that's level 2.
Right.
That's all the beginning. Like Circle of Spores is like one more is more complex, but that's because the options.
Right.
At level 6,
you get Fungal Infestation. This is where your spawns gain the ability to infest a corpse and animate it.
So good.
You're making zombies. If a beast or humanoid that is small or medium dies within 10 feet of you, you can use a reaction to animate it, causing it to stand up immediately with 1 hit point. The creature uses the zombie stats. And it remains animated for 1 hour, after which it collapses and dies.
It's literally, like I said, the undeath. And it goes right after you. If in combat, because that's when you activate it, it goes right after you. Yeah. So you get 2 turns, pretty much.
Yeah.
I just want to make a point that you were like so offended by the necromancy and the wizards, and yet you love Circle of Spores, and they're like...
It's different.
They're like, zombies!
This is
natural. Like, oh, that's great!
This is natural.
What about zombies are natural?
To the Circle of Spores, it's natural to them, so that's why it's different.
All right, so you can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier minimum of at least
So that's
once.
2 different things that have different abilities that have that each get their own based on your wisdom modifier. So if you're not putting wisdom as your highest stat, you are really missing out if you pick Circle of Spores.
Yes.
So, yeah, zombies are natural in this. Wizards, though, gross. Level 10, you get Spreading Spores. You can use your symbiotic entity to... you can hurl it 30 feet away instead of right next to you. And they swirl in a 10-foot cube for 1 minute. So, pretty much allows you to be here and then send your spores somewhere else, which is great. Because then you can help control the battlefield and move people around if they don't want to be in the spores. If they move into the... It does the damage, like your usual circle of Halo of Spores damage does. It can't take the damage more than once per turn, though. And while the spores are over there, you can't use your reaction on you. It has to be over there.
Right.
And level 14.
You get the Fungal Body, which is my nickname in high school.
Gross. I love Circle of Spores, but I hated that.
Don't like that.
So at 14th level, the fungal spores in your body alter you. You can't be blinded, deafened, frightened, or even poisoned. And any critical hit against you counts as a normal hit instead, unless you're incapacitated.
It's so good. You can't be critted. Literally, you are immune. That's the only thing that makes you immune to crits.
Right.
So, I natural 20. No, you didn't. Welcome to my game now.
Still maxing out my damage. Dang it.
So that is Circle of Spores. It's my favorite. It's super fun. It can be super creepy and gross, but also how I played it, it was very cute.
Yeah. Sprout in our campaign was just this adorable little guy who was a Circle of Spores druid, and I mean, it was...
He was cute. He wasn't like super gross, but he knew it was like, oh, it's okay if death happens. It's okay. Like, that's normal. But he was like, when he transformed, his little like mushroom topped mouse and everything, like, it was. You don't have to make it grotesque and gross. You can make it like.
It was adorable.
It was like an adorable little dude.
I have to admit,
you can look some Alice in Wonderland stuff.
Exactly.
Right,
you can do stuff like that, or you can be like the druid that's just covered in mushrooms and very gross, which is fine. It's up to you. So then we go to the most complex one, and choice-wise, Circle of the Land. This is one of the base ones. So hit us with that information about that Circle of the Land after you stop yawning from the land.
You said complicated and you lost me.
Yep, there it is.
So the Circle of the Land is made up of mystics and sages who safeguard ancient knowledge and rites through a vast oral tradition. These druids meet with sacred circles of trees or standing stones to whisper primal secrets in Druidic. The circle's wisest members preside as the chief priests. Those are fun.
Chief priests
of communities that hold on to the old faith and serve as advisors to the rulers of those folks. As a member of the circle, your magic is influenced by the land with which you are from and the circle's mysterious rites.
So this is pretty much where a druid is. Like Circle of Spores, you don't have to be in a group. Circle of Land is very based in tradition and being part of a druidic group.
Right.
You have a hierarchy. You have a setup. You have the old ones teaching the new ones to be like pass on the secrets. And druids can go off on their own, but there's there's most of the time going to be that society that they can go back to.
Right.
It starts off pretty cool.
Right. I mean, because right off the bat with second level, you get a bonus cantrip.
You get one more cantrip than everyone else. Which
Hey, freebie.
Most people are like, cantrips? I don't want a freebie. Like, no, cantrips go up in level when you go up, so they're good.
I mean, a spell that you can cast all the time, always. Yeah,
for those of you who say the cantrips are good, you don't know how to maximize them.
So we're going to move on real quick so that Brandon doesn't have an aneurysm. With a natural recovery.
Yay!
This is also starting at second level. You can regain some of your magical energy by sitting in meditation and communing with nature. During a short rest, you can choose expended spell slots to recover. That's always a good thing
now,
to do.
it has to. You can't just choose as many as you want. There is a combined level that is equal to or less than half your druid level. So you can never... I mean, it can't be 6 or higher. So you can mix and match up to 6th. So let's say you have, you're a higher level and you have 8 spell slots you can technically regain, or 8 technical ones. You can do 1 6th and 1 2nd, or mix and match between there. You can't go higher than 6. So you can't be like, I have a level 8 spell slot I want to regain. You can't do that. Because if you could, everyone would do that.
So as you continue to level up, this is where, much like the Circle of Spores, you can get circle spells that deal at 3, 5, 7, and 9.
And these are based on the land.
Right.
So before we get into that, let's talk. There's so many. There's Arctic, coast, desert, forest, grassland, mountain, swamp, or underdark. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Each with their own spells, which kind of fit with that. So again, like we did with Spores, I think it was a good idea for you to kind of stop us and do just look into them. So if you're picking a land that you like, you're just going to end up with spells that are similar to it.
It's ones that based in, if you think about it, it's based in the natural order of that area.
Yes.
So, for instance, a grassland gives you invisibility. In a grassland, there's a lot of tall grass. A lot of animals are using the grass to hide and go for their prey, hence why invisibility. In mountain, you need to be able to climb the mountain, so you get spider climb. And so they make sense for what is there naturally. So if you think you want to embody an animal in a certain area, look at or think about what naturally occurs there, and that's what the circle would give you.
For example, if you want to be like a circle of Arctic, maybe you can be a tabaxi and be like a snow leopard type tabaxi. Or if you want to be desert, maybe like a lizard folk and be sort of
right.
And then you would embody the natural order and the environment. Arctic obviously gives you ice things. Desert coast gives you water things. Desert
Swamp
gives
you insects.
Things like that. It's a natural order, which is one of the reasons I don't play land, because I prefer Spores. But there's a lot that you can still do with it to make it interesting and be part of it. Especially if let's say you're a circle of desert, but for some reason the campaign takes you out onto the ocean. Your character can be very uneasy. Can be like, I am not used to this much water.
Or, there's also the vice versa. Let's say that you're a desert, but you spend most of your time outside of it, and the party for some reason shows up in the desert. Your character's going to be like, hey guys, what's wrong? And everyone's like,
it's like, oh, this is normal.
So that's very, very campaign specific.
Yes.
Things have to kind of line up really
well.
Talk
to your DM and get a feel of if your DM is willing to let you know, where you're going to be. And so you can pick, if you want to pick one that's more campaign focused, you can do that. If you want to pick one that's more what you feel fun and have your druid just be like, this is all weird, you can do that too.
And there are some that are kind of, I don't want to say safeguards, but there's forests, there's plains, those I feel
there are a lot of those
more in campaign settings than something like Arctic or desert or even Underdark.
The coast is a pretty good one too. Almost everything has a coast.
Good one too.
Everything has a coast.
So we'll keep going. Starting at 6th level, you get Land Stride. This is where you're moving through your non-magical difficult terrain, costs you with no extra movement.
Which is great. So let's say you're going through a bunch of rocky crags, you're just like, this is nothing.
You're right, because this is definitely where you, again, having attunement with nature definitely helps. This is, if they have thorn spines,
So there are some plants that are plant life that can deal damage to people, and they're non-magical, but they're plants that are just a creature that deal damage non-magically. You can just...
The things that you hate when you go on a hike.
Yep, you can just be like, nope.
Right.
You also have advantage on saving throws against plants that are magically created to, impede or manipulate the land and your movement.
Right, these are ones that are...
Entangled.
Yes, entangled. When those kind of things happen, you have a little bit more of an edge. It's still a plant. Stop.
Get out of here. At level 10, you get Nature's Ward. You can't be charmed or frightened by elementals or fae. And you're immune to poison and disease. Which is great.
So nature things.
Nature things. Things that happen in nature, you're just like, eh.
All right, and at level 14, you get Nature's Sanctuary. No, it's just a bunch of cricket sounds.
Chirp, 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 chirp.
So when you reach the 14th level, creatures of the nature world sense your connection to the nature, and you become hesitant to attack you. Like, oh, you're kind of a nature person. I don't know.
I don't want to hit. A bear can come to you and be like, oh.
Oh, do you?
Okay. They have to make a wisdom saving throw to attack you based on your spell DC.
But this is where it's definitely helpful when you're just walking in the woods, and then all of a sudden a bear.
So if they fail, they have to choose a different target, or the attack automatically misses. If they save, they're immune to it for 24 hours. So if for some reason you get away from the bear, they are going to, you find it within 24 hours, you're going to be like, no, I can still try and hit you. But 24 hours later, they're going to be like, wait a minute. Are you the same one? The creature is aware of the attack before it makes the attack against you. So it can go for the attack, or it can start going for it, fail the save, and then go, you're next to it, and attack someone else.
Right.
It doesn't cancel the attack.
So land is very much more specific to...
It has uses. It has its good, and it has its ups and downs.
Right. This is where, like we always talk about each class, there's like that foundation of what people think of when it is. Land is it, but land more specifically, where people think of Druids, they think of it's land and specifically like
you're a land
forest.
speaker.
Right. So we're going to move on to the completely other side of the...
you go from looking down to looking up.
With Circle of the Moon.
And this one we're fairly familiar with.
Yes, Bilal in the campaign was Circle of the Moon. The easiest way to break down Circle of the Moon is, do you like wild shapes? Do you like animals? Let's make those better.
Yes. Because you're fierce guardian of the wilds. The order gathers under the moon to share news and trade warnings. They haunt the deepest part of the wildernesses where it's dark.
The really thick parts of the trees where you're like, I can't see anything.
It's dark.
And they're like, hello, do you need something?
The wild is in the Druid's blood. Is usually this is what D&D usually phrases it as. Like, you are just dark. You're masters of the dark part of the woods, where it's just part of you.
And that means being a master of that part of the dark part of the woods, you may go a long part of time without seeing another person or a druid at all. You could go weeks without even crossing paths with another individual that even looks humanoid.
You're a hermit now.
Welcome to the woods.
Yeah. So starting off at level 2, you get combat wild shape, and this is where you're talking about having stuff like wild shape that just
do you like wild shape? It's better.
Yeah. So like when you choose the Circle of the Moon at 2nd level, you gain the ability to use wild shape on your turn as a bonus action
instead of your full action.
Right. So this means that you could have your full turn of just like whack, whack, and now I'm a wolf, and you're like, hold on,
hold up. So you can also, while you're transformed, you can use a bonus action to spend a spell slot to regain 1d8 hit points.
Mm.
So it's while you're transformed. So if you want to maintain your wild shape more, you just spend a spell slot that you're not going to be able to use outside of your spot wild shape anyways to maintain it.
Right.
So if you want to be that dire wolf at later levels and you want to maintain that dire wolf and have pack tactics and everything, you can keep your dire wolf up longer using spell slots.
Right. This is one of those things where you might run into a case where for some reason the enemy's taking much more damage through your direwolf form versus you would ever take from normal you, and you're like, you know what, I need to keep this rolling,
and I'm going to spend a level 5 spell slot to get 5d8 hit points back to keep the damage rolling. Also,
right.
I mean, there's different abilities that your wild shapes give you. Like pack tactics allow people to get advantage if they're within 5 feet of you.
Right.
You also get circle forms. So starting at 2nd level, you can use your wild shape to transform into a beast with a challenge rating as high as 1.
Right, that's significantly more than the 1/4 that you start off.
It's 3/4 more.
Yeah, but the other limitation still exists. That's an issue. That's an issue of contention between a lot of DMs and their players. They're like, well, I can do this, but this has flying. You can't pick that. You can't pick it because the rule level 8 is when you can pick something that has both swimming and flying.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts. That's a druid thing, not a circle thing.
Right.
So you can pick anything. You can pick a higher like CR, but you can't pick one that can fly because you don't.
I guess this would be as a DM. You would be down to like, well, fine, you want to pick it, but you just can't use those features.
I've done that before with our campaign. I had where the player wanted to turn into a bird and try and fly to like keep you up, but he wasn't at a high enough level where he could fly. So I had him do it. He turned into I let him use his like wingspan to try and slow the descent. It helped a little bit, not much, because you can't fly.
Right.
So it's up to the DM, but if you want to follow rules as written, no birds until, even though level 2 you can easily pick a bird and something that has flying. You can't do it.
Right. And then, of course, starting at 6th level, you can transform to a beast with a challenge rating as high as your druid level divided by 3, rounding down. So this is, again...
You can eventually get to things that...
So, like, 6th level if you're at 18, right?
Yeah. And starting at 6th level, you can do 2nd level.
Yeah.
Right. So, which is a CR2. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Also at 6th level, you get Primal Strike. Your attacks as a beast count as magical. which is great.
It's really nice.
This is where we've
It's
talked
like
about...
you suddenly become a magic weapon.
Right, this is where we've talked about with monks, where their strikes can become considered magical.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference between
Hitting something and dealing, instead of dealing like your max, let's say you roll an 8, instead of doing 8 damage to 4, you do your 8.
Right. I mean, this is where you're fighting things like barbarians who may be, they're trying to half the damage. Like, if you hit them, they're like, oh, they only did half damage. You're like, well, now it's a magical strike. Like, oh, no.
Now I'm taking full.
Yeah.
Some things can't do that at all. And we already talked about level 6 is your circle gets better. And then level 10, this is important, you can transform using your wild shape to go into an air, earth, fire, or water elemental. You can't normally do that.
Right, and this expends 2 wild shapes. And that should also be noted rather than you're just like, oh, I got 1 left, I'm an elemental.
No, you have to spend 2, and you get more wild shapes based on your level.
Yes.
How cool would it be to be like, I'm a genie now?
I'm a genie.
You can literally, like, that's one of the things. And being an elemental, 1, you get resistance to elements damage. 2, you can engulf things.
Mm-hmm.
So you can burn, you can just engulf, and you can fit through areas you can't really fit. So if you want combat and you want to deal like, oh, we're fighting something that's weak to fire, don't worry, guys. I've got it. Fire elemental. No one come near me, but I'm just going to go, and you can be in their same space and dealing mass amounts of damage. Right. And then at level 14,
you get 1,000 forms. Maybe not quite that, but it's called 1,000 Forms. This is where you've learned to use your magic to alter your physical form in more suitable ways. You can cast the Alter Self spell at will.
So you can literally change how you look, your basic height, your features, just all the time. You're a changeling without the ability to change race. You say your race, but you can change anything else about you.
Like, I am not the druid you were looking for.
I'm not the person, I'm a different person, entirely. Don't worry
the other guy's nose was awful.
I had a crooked nose, and I have a perfect face. So then we get to our final circle.
Right. Well, it just is a recap of Moon. Moon is much more wild shape based, like we've kind of said. So just as a reminder, if you like wild shapes, Moon's a good idea.
If you like animals in wild shape, Moon.
Right.
Maximize your wild shape.
Right. So yeah. So going back to what you were talking about, it was like the Circle of the Shepherd. This is where your druids of the Circle of the Shepherd.
This is underrated a lot. Some people pick it, but this is a lot of people. I don't know very many people who pick Circle of the Shepherd. Most people pick Moon. A lot of people recently are picking Spores. And then
Land, I imagine, is also fairly common.
Yeah.
For beginners.
But this one's pretty good for what it is.
Right.
And this is the one that we're actually going to go ahead and pick for our druid.
Just to do something a little
different. Yeah, because, just a little something different.
Right. This is where you're communing with the spirits of nature, especially the spirits of beasts and fae. This is where you're calling to those spirits for aid. These druids recognize that all living things play a role in the natural world, yet they focus on protecting animals and fae creatures that have difficulty defending themselves.
So a tiny sprite or a pixie. Right. You're like, don't worry, I have your back.
Right. This is where like something like Land was much more focused on the actual land itself, versus this one is much more about the animals,
the creatures that inhabit that land.
Right. You're a shepherd to the flock of these creatures, which is why it's called.
You're a shepherd. You're the guide. You're the protector. You're the keeper of the place that you are, and the animals that can't protect themselves. They are pretty much, if you want to think of an NPC that would fit this, is you're going into a wooded area or some sort of like land that is being plagued by, or monsters are encroaching it. Mm-hmm. The Circle of Shepherd would be there first to be like, you are not coming into my woods. Yeah. You're not coming in. I am here. I will fight you to the death to protect these things.
Yes.
And so that is, these druids are the happiest when they don't have a city nearby.
Yes.
They're perfectly fine with living their entire life being like, oh, this is my feral cat Flopsy, and there's my bunny Hopsy, and there's
Flopsy and Hopsy.
They're perfectly fine with having a cavalcade of animals and being in nature and being alone.
Right. Which rolls right into, at second level, you gain the speech of the woods, which is the ability to converse with beasts and many fae.
And you learn to speak, write, understand Sylvan.
Mm.
So it pretty much makes it so you're able to speak. You're the Lorax, kind of. You speak with nature. You speak for the trees. They can literally understand the ancestral ancient language of nature. The ancients. You can also, this is important, you can understand animals' speech with their moans and grumbles and their body movement, and they can understand your basic speech. If they're not high enough intelligence, they won't understand complex things that you tell them, so you can't tell them to do complex tasks. They don't have to listen.
Go open that safe. What?
They're not friends.
Yeah.
They can be friendly, though. Let's say you're in your druidic area where you've grown up. The DM can easily make all animals in that area your friend because you've grown up and you become attuned with them.
Right.
While if you go into a different area, the animals may be like, I don't know you. I'm not going to help you, but then you can work with them.
Right.
Like, kind of. You can... so you can't assume they're going to be animal friends. Animal friendship is a different spell. You can use it to help with this.
Right.
But you don't get it.
So also at the second level, you are getting Spirit Totem.
Which is really cool. It's... like I said, underused. If you were to go walk and be like, "What's a spirit totem as a druid?" Most people aren't going to be able to tell you, even if they play druids.
Right.
They're not going to know.
So this is where, as a bonus action, you can magically summon an incorporeal spirit to a point that you can see within 60 feet of you. The spirit creates an aura in a 30-foot radius around the point. It counts as neither a creature nor an object, though it has a spectral appearance, and the creature is the creature it represents.
And you can move it 60 feet as a bonus action.
And there are 3 different types.
There is bear, hawk, and unicorn.
And the bear one grants you and your abilities like sort of an endurance. So you get temporary hit points 5 plus your druid level, and in addition, your allies gain advantage on strength checks and saving throws while they're in the aura. The hawk is more like you can use your reaction to grant advantage on an attack roll. So you and your allies both have advantage on perception checks while you're in the aura.
This is good.
And then the unicorn. So you and your allies gain advantage on all ability checks made to detect creatures in the spirit aura. And in addition, if you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to any creature inside or outside the aura, each creature of your choice in the aura also regain hit points. So let's say these 2 guys are right next to me, but I've got another buddy that's way over there. I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to heal you because this is a ranged healing thing, and then...
We get equal to druid level. So if she's level 15, we just get 15 off the bat just for funsies. That's for free, which is great. So this type of druid lets you be, if you don't want to be like that up in like your face, attacky druid, this type of druid allows you to be more, as you said, protective and healy, which is good.
And this is where that kind of thing, the spirit totems, this is where we've talked before how it's somewhat similar to the healing spirit, where you move the spit around to give the benefit around. So if you know what healing spirit is, this is probably the closest thing to equivalent. It has a totally different function. So at 6th level, you get Mighty Summoner. This is where beasts and fae that you conjure are more resilient than normal. Any beast or fae summoned or created by a spell that you cast gain the following benefits. The creature appears with more hit points than normal, 2 extra hit points per hit die it has.
So if it has like 10 hit die, it has 20 extra hit points.
The damage from its natural weapons is considered magical for the purpose of overcoming immunity and resistance to non-magical attacks.
So good. Because then you can be like, okay, I'm gonna summon a bear. That bear is now magical. Go beat the crap out of that thing.
Right. So that's definitely helpful if you're going to be summoning some things.
Yep.
At level 10, you get Guardian Spirit. This is where your spirit totem safeguards the beasts and fae that you call forth with your magic. When a beast or fae that you have summoned or creature with a spell ends its turn in your spirit totem era, the creature regains a number of hit points equal to your druid level.
So it gives you healing spirit without having to roll die whenever you activate your normal spirit.
So at minimum, you're getting 10, just because that's what you get at level 10.
So at minimum, you're getting 10 hit points for just being there. Which is great, because that means if they cast a spell then and heal someone, you get the 10 from being there and then the extra.
Yes.
Which is great. And then level 14, you get your Faithful Summons. The nature spirits you commune with are so buddy-buddy and so happy that you protect them. If you're reduced to 0 hit points and are incapacitated against your will, you can immediately gain the benefits of Conjure Animals, as if you were cast using a 9th level spell slot. You don't even have those at that level. At level 14, you do not have 9th level spells to use. It summons 4 beasts of your choice that are challenge rating of 2 or lower. The conjured beasts appear within 20 feet of you. Mm-hmm. If they receive no command from you, they protect you from harm and attack your foes. The spell lasts for 1 hour, requiring no concentration and no dismissal. So, pretty much, as you go down, you can go, I want I want a 4-pack of dire wolves around me to protect my body. And they show up.
Yeah.
Because conjure animals is... I'm bringing up the spell now just so we can... You can do... like it said... The different creatures, you can do a giant boar, a giant constrictor, like all these crazy... A rhino. A saber-toothed tiger. You can have 4 saber-toothed tigers. Just show up and be like... Hello, friends. We have 4 tigers here now.
Yeah.
So that's Shepherd. This is where, again, it's very much the focal point.
No, I don't know if this is just a regular druid one, but I did want to mention this. Because I know we had said earlier that with your wild shape, you can't cast spells, but you can at 18th level.
Yes.
Yes,
that is all druids.
Yes.
Beginning at 18th level, you can cast many of your druid spells.
Until you get there, you can't. But after 18th level, hey, guess what? You're now like a dire wolf that's slinging spells. That's
right.
great.
Dire wolf, the thorn firebolt.
Yeah, starting a little lower down at level 4, you get a wild shape improvement. This is where you can do a rating of half or lower. Yep. You also get that at 8, where you can go up to 1. And then, of course, at 18, that's where you start getting be able to cast spells.
You also get Timeless Body, which means the primal magic that you wield cause you to age more slowly. For every 10 years, you only age 1 as your body.
Yeah.
So
you're kind of like a mystical nature monk.
So let's say you're playing your character, and through the campaign, about 2 years go by, and you start at age 18. So you're starting at primal level 18. You're age 20. Literally, your body won't turn 21 until you're 30.
Yes.
And then so on. Mm-hmm. Which is insane.
Well, especially if we're doing something like an elf.
An elf. Literally, a timeless body as an elf, you will last eons.
Yes. Yeah. At levels 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19, you get ability score improvements.
And then level 20.
And then bringing us to level 20.
You become an Ox Druid.
Yes.
So, you can do wild shape as much as you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which includes an elemental. As much as you want. And you can cast spells as an elemental as much as you want, depending on if you're the Circle of Moon, elemental as much as you want, spells as much as you want as an elemental. You can also ignore verbal and somatic components of your druid spells. So all you need is components, which means if you have a component power, you just go, and it happens.
Yeah.
As well as any material components that lack a cost and aren't consumed by a spell, you don't need them anymore.
Yes.
You gain this benefit in both your normal shape and your wild shape.
It's really nice.
It's insanely good, but druids never if you want to play a level get to level 20 campaign, that is like a multi-year campaign.
Yes.
Which is great, but most people don't do that.
No.
I'm hoping we get to that.
I would love to get to that.
I would love for you guys all to get level 20 with the characters, or a character if they die for some reason. But that's the goal, is to get to level 20. So
that's the dream.
That's where you guys are just like, infinite power! So, druids start off, and you're kind of like, well, I can only do so much, and you can hit people, kind of. And then at higher levels, druids get the abilities that other classes wish they could have. Unlimited of anything?
Yes.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of quick rundown. Like Sam mentioned earlier, we're going to go with Circle of the Shepherd for Gelf the Elf.
And since we're going to 5th level, I popped those 2 other ability improvements into Wisdom and Constitution.
Good.
I also went on ahead, picked the spells. We've got Produce Flame, Shape Water, Shillelagh, Cure Wounds, Earth Tremor, Fairy Fire, Healing Spirit, Moonbeam, Pass Without Trace, Conjure Animals, because, of course, our circle, and Tidal Wave.
Tidal Wave!
Good ones.
So then for our ability scores, we're pretty
middle of the road,
flat across the board, except for our charisma, which is horrible.
I'm Gelf the Elf!
It's
Gelf
the Elf.
Ooh.
We don't need a high charisma. It's the name just did it.
He doesn't interact with people a lot.
So our background.
I know it usually recommends Hermit as the background.
I'm okay with Hermit.
Let's do. What else are you thinking?
I was thinking, since we have a special character, Gelf the Elf.
Gelf the Elf! You gotta say it right.
Let's do something like a folk hero.
He's literally a folk here. People just hear about Gelf the elf saving.
Yes.
I want the folktale of him to be like he's this big badass druid,
And he's just like,
he's just
I'm Gelf the
He's
elf.
just total goof in real life.
exactly
Oh, you see that butterfly? Oh, that one's about to die.
like Gelf the elf, the defender of the forest. Hoy!
Gelf.
Like
So skill proficiencies, we get 2 of them. I'm gonna pop them into, let's go nature.
yeah,
Mhm. Nature.
And, how about
Survival, or
we
do
already
we do
picked
one?
survival? So how about Arcana?
Yeah,
sure.
he knows magic.
We are proficient with vehicles. Interesting.
Well, hold on. He can make them.
But we also get another artisan's tools. So maybe like, oh, let's make him a painter.
Yeah, he just paints what he sees.
He paints what he sees.
Oh, this is my.
That's how you know you found him. He's got like trees that are just painted.
This is my most recent painting. It's called The Goring of a Deer.
So let's go
It's a deer
ahead and
stabbing a
roll these
person.
personality traits. I need 2d8 rolls.
So we have 7
I misuse long words and attempt to sound smarter.
and 8.
And I get bored easily. When am I going to get on with my destiny?
Those are fine.
Okay.
Gelf the elf.
I need those ideals.
The incorporeal nature of nature. 1.
Respect. Respect.
Respect. And then
Bonds.
1.
I have a family, but I have no idea where they are. One day I hope to see them again. Every background for every D&D character ever created in
I've been alone forever.
That's hilarious for Gelf though,
That
because
is
he's just
I'll
like
find them one day.
he didn't lose them. They hated his voice so much they just left.
What's this gonna be like Joe Dirt, where they just leave him in a trash can?
Pretty much, they left him in a nest.
And then we need the flaw.
5.
Secretly, I believe that things would be better if I were a tyrant lording over the land. I'm going to keep that one.
Yeah,
Gelf the elf is so complex.
the forest would be safe forever.
Look, nature would be great if I was in control and could burn the
Alright.
masses.
So, druid equipment, you're kind of limited.
Stick.
Yeah. You get a wooden shield or a simple weapon.
Say wooden shield.
I'm going to
wooden
say
shield.
wooden shield. And then you get a scimitar or a simple melee weapon.
Simple melee weapon. We need to be a stick.
Club.
You wanna
It's
be
just
a club?
it's just a big old stick he found. I'm Gelf.
You get leather armor, an explorer's pack, and a druidic focus, which I'm kind of digging like a sprig of mistletoe.
It's just attached to his forehead.
Or should we pick totem because he's got the spirit?
Oh, let's do totem.
Let's do totem.
It's a little totem necklace he carries around.
Oh, hey, guess what? You get another set of artisan's tools. So not only is he a painter,
Wood carver?
but he's also
A wood carver.
a wood carver. You
I
also-
made this wood carving. It's the last man who came into this forest without asking.
It's made from his bones.
So we now have our druid, our
Gelf
Gelf the elf.
Yay.
Our boy.
He's so I love him.
I hate him so much.
All right, so just as a kind of a rundown of everything we've talked about, druids, nature.
You're wise. You're a wise old nature owl.
So when it comes to druids, they're not so focused on purely all of nature. You can focus that down to just specifically the land, the creatures, the fey magic that kind of runs through it. If you're more into the darker parts of the forest, like again, if you want to be more about changing into an animal yourself, using the animals to your advantage, or you want to focus like, I am one with the land I am from. I need some chapstick from this desert.
Yeah, things like it's literally think when you build a druid, my personal way of doing is think where you want them to be from and what environment you want them to be from and build from there.
Right.
Because then that gives you different ideas and different ways that you can fit these in. Instead of being like, I want to be Circle of Dreams, but I grew up in the middle of a town. Like that.
So I think just for fun, by the way, I'm going to make one of his wild shapes a camel.
Yay!
Just for funsies.
Hello, I'm Gelf the Elf Camel.
There's gonna be a camel just wandering through with like a little like stick in his mouth and it's lit on the end. It's just like sweet grass,
Sweet grass.
camel brand, sweet
So
grass.
that's the long sort of druids. Make them fun, make them you, make them. They don't have to, but they should have nature as some part of their like driving goals.
Well, yeah, it should be a major part of their personality
Yeah,
is the defending of nature.
It'd be kind of weird to have. I mean, I guess it would be an interesting story though to be a druid that like hated nature.
I mean,
I would think that's interesting.
Well, I think if you're going to go that route, you'd almost have to homebrew a subclass as far as like a druid,
A circle of town.
like a circle of like pollution, maybe.
Or a circle
so you
of-
make like the was it
the
because there's
anti-druid.
or
Like
like,
the
was
Circle
it
of
that
Stone.
Captain Pollution from Captain Planet? Like essentially that you could probably make something similar to that. But of course, that's where you make it your own. And we always talk about role playing and talking to your DM and doing something that you feel that you want to play and portray is going to be the main focus. But yeah, druids boiled down are wise nature people. They're the hippies. They're the
Dang
tree huggers.
hippies.
But don't mess with them because they'll turn into a bear and maul your face.
Exactly.
Dang bear hippies.
Oh, it's mauling our people.
That's it.
So, until the next time you find yourself in the woods, detention dismissed.